What's up, people? It's Fernando Ramirez. We have another jam-packed Compas on the Beat episode. Gilbert and I will be talking to Chargers running back Austin Ekeler, also Rams beat reporters Eric Williams and Kevin Modesti. But before we get to those guest interviews, we wanted to remind you to please subscribe to Compas on the Beat on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Leave us a review and rate us. We're also on YouTube. Please subscribe there as well. Also, you can find us on the Los Angeles Football Network. All Compas on the Beat content is available on LAFBnetwork.com. Make sure to subscribe to the LAFB Network YouTube channel as well. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome to Compas on the Beat. I am Fernando Ramirez, Chargers beat reporter for Sports Illustrated, and with me, my partner in crime, my co-host Gilbert Manzano, Chargers beat reporter for the OC Register and the LA Daily News. What's up, bro?
What's up, Fernando? I'm doing well, but Fernando, I gotta say, I've been waiting an entire week to ask you a very important question.
Here we go.
You don't like alcohol? You don't drink beer? What's up with that? Because I'm kind of disappointed, Fernando. I've been wanting to ask you, you don't drink?
No, sir. It's funny. Obviously, it said there was a post on Twitter, and what did the post say? It says you're Mexican, but you don't like this. And I mean, I saw people posting different stuff, crema, stuff like that, and I was like, and I threw it out there. I'm like, alcohol, and people were surprised. They're like, what's up with that? So yeah, no, I don't drink alcohol. I don't consume alcohol. And I think that's the funniest part is that I guess like at parties or stuff like that, I'm so amped up, and you know me, Gilbert, energy for days. People are like, dude, that guy must be, I mean, and that's what happened in college. People were like, oh dude, you're so drunk. And I'm like, actually, I'm not. Like, zero alcohol, 100% energy. So yeah, it was one of those things. I never liked it. I never got into it. So, I mean, it was one of those things.
Never had a taste of beer, a shot, something.
So
Give
like,
me something, Fernando.
So when we would go to Mexico when I was younger, to Guadalajara and stuff like that with family, yeah, like sometimes I would, but there was one time I remember I got really dizzy. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm like, I never want to feel that again. Like it was bad, bro. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, and so slowly but surely started going through, and yeah, no, I was fine with it. Did I ever get peer pressure? Oh yeah, numerous times. Never drank it. I was fine with it. I mean, I'm good. So yeah, it was just one of those things. I just never got into it.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel a little disappointed in you, but I also respect that you don't give into peer pressure. I know how these Mexican parties can be where everybody's like, hey, drink one. You're like 16 years old and like, you got to start them young, got to start them early. But Fernando, you said, hey, I tried it, I didn't like it, and you moved on. So that's why I respect it. And your energy is very genuine. It's real, man. I don't even think you drink coffee. I've never seen you drink coffee. I'm drinking coffee all the time.
I don't drink coffee, bro. Green peach tea from Starbucks. That's what I'm drinking. Gives me that energy, that boost. I'm over here hyped. Shout out to Starbucks if you're listening. We'd love to get sponsored and everything. Just throwing it out there. But hey, you need to ease up on me because I got something on you. You do not like avocados. What in the hell is wrong with you?
Avocados, get out of here. I don't like avocados. I think they're disgusting. I don't know whose thing of not being Mexican supposedly. We're all Mexican, okay? They're just things we don't like, okay? It's not the end of the world, but I guess our two things are very kind of out there. You don't like alcohol, I don't like avocados, and people lose their mind. I'm like, hey, I'm not the one getting ripped off here, and you're paying $2.50 extra at Chipotle to get your burrito bowl, and I'm saving money all the time.
I need my guac, bro. Shout out to Chipotle. I need my guac out there, bro. I mean, I need that extra guac, and I tell them, and it's funny. I did this a couple of years ago, and I remember the Chipotle, the lady helping me just laughed. I was like, show me a little bit of love, like if you love me, and she just looks at me and starts laughing and throws a whole big old scoop of guac on there.
That sounds disgusting to me, but oof. Fernando, I'll put it this way, because people can't believe that I don't like avocados. They think this is very amazing food, and I love food. I'm not picky at all, but it just is one thing. I don't like avocados, and the only thing I can stand about avocado is when it becomes guacamole and there's a bunch of lime, a bunch of hot sauce. I just need the flavor of avocados gone. So I'll deal with it, but I'll tell you this: my mom, she is in denial that I don't like avocados. Every time she makes guacamole, anything about avocado, she's like, here, we're having seafood ceviche. Hey, avocados are right there. Get to. I'm like, Mom, for the 100th time, I don't like this. Are you in denial that your son doesn't like avocados? And she's like, oh, I forget. And she throws out the line like, but it is in Mexico. It is in Nayarit. That's what we eat. I'm like, okay, so I know, I'm from, my family's from Mexico, but I don't like it. Get over it, Mom. But don't, it's funny because with my mom, I could be honest with her.
Yeah.
When I go to somebody else's house of a compa,
ooh,
that's when it gets tricky. I rather avoid the fight or the death stares of like, you don't like avocado? Whose friend is that? Who brought that guy who doesn't like avocado? So anytime I went to a friend's house and the mom was making guacamole or had avocados there, I took it. I ate it. I shut up. I was like, I'm not going to deal with this at somebody else's house. But, and also, how it is at Mexican households. Like, they offer you food, you take it. Don't even think twice.
Oh,
you take it.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's one of those things where it's rude if you don't. So, I mean, but no, what's funny? When you said there's only one way I'll eat it, or whatever, only one way I like it. I thought you were going to tell me that you use those facial masks, the avocado facial mask. I thought that was going to be the only way you enjoyed it. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, and that's the thing, is that everybody has their own unique thing that they don't like, which is obviously, like they say, it's Mexicans. I mean, I'm telling you, like, you should see all the stuff I get when I go to parties and stuff, and they're like, "Una cerveza?" I'm like, "No, gracias." And then one of my buddies or somebody will say, "No toma." Everybody turns around, like in the movies, bro. Everybody turns around and looks at me, and they're like, "You don't drink alcohol?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Okay, well, mad respect." But honestly, like, it helped me. I mean, when I was at Long Beach, it helped me. I was a designated driver, so I got invited to parties and all that. Shout out to Long Beach. So yeah, no, it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to parties and stuff, but I just didn't drink. And so at the end of the night, I always had control. And it's funny because when buddies and stuff would get in the car, I tell them, "Hey, just a PSA. I drive however I drive, regardless if people are drunk, sick, anything. I drive that same way. I'm not going to change for anybody." And they think I'm BSing them. And then I'm on the freeway driving 90, and they're like, "Oh, God." And I'm like, "Hey, I told you guys." I'm like, it's like Disneyland, bro. Like, I'm Roger Rabbit driving that car. Like, I'm boom, boom, boom all over the place. So, no, but it's interesting stuff. I mean, but Gilbert, we need to move on because, man, this week is about to get crazy. There is about to be some madness, Gilbert. I mean, it's the week of the draft, and I'm expecting a lot of chaos. I think more so than in years past. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, for the past 2 weeks. I keep saying I'm done with the draft scenario. They're just, let's just, get to the draft. But you start thinking more, you can't get away from it. So, my job at the Orange County Register and the LA Daily News, they asked me to, shout out to my newspapers. They asked me to do a mock draft. I'm like, you're putting all that on me? You want me to do the mock draft? I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I did a mock draft. You can find that at the Orange County Register website. Look for it. Another shout out, plug for myself. And for the Chargers, the way I kind of did it was Rashawn Slater, Penei Sewell. These guys are really good. They're gonna go in the top 10. J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, top 10. So who's left? And I went Kwity Paye, and I feel like he's a good edge rusher for the Chargers, but I know a lot of fans won't like that.
So now we see what Fernando faced a couple of weeks ago when we did the SI one, and I took Devonta Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. Everybody was getting on me and stuff, and I was like, first of all, there's no trades, so get that out of your head already. But I mean, there was no wiggle room. I was like, Darrisaw, I don't know, like, because to me, there's a little bit of a drop off between Slater, Sewell, and Darrisaw. Like, there's a drop off. So obviously, it was just one of those things. Like, it gets hard to choose, and you're like, oh, who am I gonna take? So I decided to take him. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, I put a receiver there. But Gilbert, are we sticking with our picks? I mean, are the Chargers really going to draft Devonta Smith or Kwity Paye? Let's settle this right now. No more pendejas. Let's do it, Gilbert.
No more pendejadas, this final pick prediction. Because, I've been all over the place. I went, with Chris on CBS and he told me who they're going to draft. I said Michael Parsons, and people lost their minds for that. But I'm just going to stick
Shout out to
to
you, by the way, because you I think Pop and Daniel Popper for The Athletic and Jeff Miller from the LA Times. I think they went with more secure picks that the Chargers could draft. You went out on a limb, my friend, and I love that about you. I think I'm starting to rub off on you a little bit, though.
a little bit, but I'll say this. The wide receiver thing has not gotten to me because on my mock draft, Devontae Smith was available. And he's so good, but I just feel like wide receivers, they kind of grow on trees, Fernando. And I know you say they'll take them to the next level. So you know what? If let's just say this. I really like Elijah Vera Tucker from USC. If he's there, take him. But I feel like my gut feeling, I'm going to stick with my mock draft. I think Kwity Paye from Michigan is a pick because, again, if those guys are, all taken, just go to edge rusher. That is a need. That's a current need and a best available player. But then again, I'll just say this. I know I'm kind of finding a loophole out a way out of here. If you're in that scenario and you really, really want a lineman or a cornerback, just trade down. Trade down. Get somebody else. But if you're going to stick at 13, I stick with my pick, Kwity Paye from Michigan.
Gilbert, I want to give you credit right now because right now, if Brandon Staley, shout out to Coach Staley, if he's listening right now, he got excited about what you said because you said edge rusher. So kudos to you, Gilbert, for saying edge rusher. Remember, Coach wants edge, not outside linebacker, not defensive end, edge. And you gave him exactly what he wanted, Gilbert. So shout out to you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go different. I've been researching a lot and kind of noticing stuff. To me, Tom Telesco doesn't trade down. So that to me is already out of the he doesn't do it. And he values where he's at. I know there's going to be a valuable player that maybe drops to him, but I'm not waiting. I'm jumping up to 7th and I'm drafting Penei Sewell if the Bengals, because everything is controlled by the Bengals. If the Bengals go receiver, and I think Miami goes Rashawn Slater, Penei Sewell will be there at 7, and I see the Chargers jumping up and grabbing him.
Wow.
You need to solidify that left tackle position. A couple of years ago, the Chargers did that. A.J. Smith at the time was the general manager of the Chargers in 2006, and he had Phillip Rivers already, and he decided to draft Marcus McNeil out of Auburn with the 2nd-round draft pick. In the 1st round, I believe he went Antonio Cromartie. In the 2nd round, he went Marcus McNeil. Marcus McNeil ended up being an all-pro for the Chargers. He solidified the left tackle position. The only thing is Marcus McNeil had a couple of neck injuries, and he had to retire early. If not, he would have been the Chargers left tackle probably until 2018, 2019. The Chargers need to solidify that spot. And I'm telling you, Gilbert, when I talked to Penei Sewell or like the media did for his pro day, man, there was a twinkle in his eye when I asked him, Penei, what would it mean for you? Have you talked to the Chargers? And he legit goes, I've talked to the Chargers. There's been conversations made, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, what would it mean for you to play with Herbert again? He's like, blocking for Herb would be a dream come true. Man, make him and Herbert's dream come true. The Chargers need to. In my opinion, you need to go solidify that left tackle position. And I think if you don't get Rashawn Slater and you don't get Penei Sewell, I mean, they're the two guys.
Fernando, let me ask you. I don't know if you mentioned it. Sorry, I missed it. But where are they trading up to get Penei? So what number? What range?
7.
What are we talking?
Oh,
here?
My bad. I said 7. They're trading with Detroit.
They're going to trade with Detroit. You don't think 13 to 7? It's a high, steep, high jump. What's it going to cost for the Chargers? Let me first
round draft pick next year, a third this year, one of their thirds.
I asked Telesco about that. Giving up a first round pick, and he's a future first round pick. He's never done it before with the Chargers. So
you know what this is, right? This is an honesty show. There's a little bit of fire there. He can't think about next year. He needs to start thinking about this year and the future of his quarterback. He needs that left tackle. I know it's going to cost him a pretty penny to jump up, bro. When you have that left tackle and and remember, he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
If he's blocking for Justin Herbert, and Justin and him already have a strong connection. Imagine, honestly, Eugene, Oregon to me is going to turn into a Charger city. It's going to be all Chargers. You're going to see Penei Sewell or Justin Herbert jerseys out there. But honestly, the Chargers need to solidify that left tackle position. And if they got Penei Sewell and matched him up with Justin, especially with the way this offensive line has been shaped this offseason. Man, you finish that off and you're going to be solid, and you're going to have your left tackle for the next few years.
I don't know. You got to ask Anthony Lynn with the Detroit Lions, the OC there to sign off on it. You think Anthony Lynn, the old friend's going to do that?
I think Anthony wouldn't. You're not in the same division. You're not in the same.
Yeah.
You're not in the same conference. So I mean, hey, but do I have to stick at 13, or does my trade count? My trade counts.
Yeah, it's fine. You gave up a first round pick. Why not? Let's do it. You say they're going to get Penei Sewell. I think fans would love that. I feel like the price is too steep, so I'm keeping the Chargers at 13 and taking the best pass rusher.
Yeah, no, and I mean, honestly, I think this is one of the hardest teams to predict what they're going to do. Who's number one on their draft board? I wish we would get shown that draft board one day. Maybe after the draft is over, I'd love to be able to see
check it out,
the draft board. But it's going to be really interesting to see what they do this week. But let's talk about last year's first round draft pick, Gilbert.
Justin
Herbert.
Yeah, Fernando, I got to say, we finally met Justin Herbert in person, the rookie of the year, the number 6 overall pick for the Chargers in 2020. We've never gotten to meet the guy in person, all via Zoom. We finally met him in person for the SoFi Stadium Chargers season ticket members open house on Saturday or last weekend. And we spoke to him. The beat reporters spoke to Justin Herbert. And Fernando, as soon as we got into the locker room, the Chargers locker room, which was nice. This is my first time being down in the tunnel and seeing the locker room and all that at SoFi Stadium. So that open house was pretty cool. But as soon as I walked into the locker room, I started looking up. I'm like, who is this tall dude? I'm like, oh, that's Justin Herbert. So I thought that was pretty cool to talk to him in person for a change. And he was outgoing. He didn't sound like a rookie. He sounded like a quarterback who's been around for a long time. So Justin Herbert, he's like in the media now. I like it.
Can I make an observation? He got excited when he saw us. He was like, hey, dude. He's like, hey, guys, what's up? Like, I was waiting for a, what's up, bro? I was going to, man, if he would have said that, I mean, you can't chest bump. You can't do any of that, but it would have been pretty close if he would have just hit us with the, what's up, bro?
Or a compa.
Or Compas. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully one day we can get Justin on, because that'd be a lot of fun. But we're looking into the future, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I honestly thought it was cool to meet Justin. We talked to him, talked about his golf game. I think he got a kick out of it when I asked him what his handicap was, and he's like, I'm not very good. And then he impressed me when he said he thinks Keenan Allen's good, and I'm like, and Popper said it, Keenan's good at everything, basically. Keenan Allen, obviously, like, he's good at singing, he's good at the piano, golf, I guess, apparently. I mean,
video
games, there you go. It's just a little bit of everything, but I was impressed by him. I thought he was a cool guy. We got, like you said, I mean, it's different from Zoom. So it was pretty cool to be able to meet him and talk to him for a little bit. I mean, we only got 10 minutes with him, but I came away pretty impressed.
Yeah, I did too. And also with the head coach, Brandon Staley, we spoke to him in person, and me and his family and his adorable kids and his wife. So that was pretty cool. So I think overall Saturday was a good opportunity for us beat writers to meet people in person for a change, because 2020, man, changed everything. And it was cool to get back out there and see Charger fans out there. There was fans out there, and there was a long line to get into this open house with SoFi Stadium. It was cool to see how excited fans were to finally see their seats in person. So I think overall the whole event was pretty cool. I saw the team store was jam packed. We couldn't even find the way down there. So
I know
that was pretty cool to kind of be there. And the best part, Fernando, nobody kicked us out. You know, we were hanging out there, and nobody had a problem with us being there a little late.
Exactly. No, it was pretty awesome. But yeah, and like you said, real quick, we met Amy, Brandon Staley's wife. We met Colin, Will, and Grant, his kids also. Hilarious that the way he presented us to them. I mean, we'll give you guys a little sneak peek. He was just like, these are the guys that are going to be covering the team. They cover the team. They write about us and everything. And I thought that was pretty cool. That was very sincere from him. And his kids, one of them was wearing a Justin Herbert jersey, the other one a Joey Bosa, and he gave us a little insight that the kids are going to get more jerseys. I mean, you know, Gilbert, kids love getting jerseys. His sons are going to get a lot more jerseys for a lot more of the players. There's no favoritism shown, because I'm pretty sure one of them is going to have a Derwin James jersey. They're going to have some other jerseys. I mean, whoever they select this weekend, maybe they're going to get that jersey too. But I was very impressed by getting to meet both Brandon and Justin.
Yeah, maybe a number 3 Derwin James jersey, not 33.
Oh, that's very Gilbert. You hit it again. I mean, you never know. And I think Patrick Peterson's the first player that's come out and said he will be switching his number from actually it's a Minnesota Vikings. Patrick Peterson, not the Arizona Cardinals. He's the first player that's come out and said he's changing his number to 7. So we'll see who's gonna follow him. But Gilbert, another thing I liked about Saturday was we walk over. I mean, Gilbert and I leave the arena and everything, and we're walking and stuff. And I checked how much. I mean, like all of you know, I live in San Diego still, so I checked to see how long my commute was going to be. Man, it said 3 hours and 30 minutes, and I was like, wait, it took me an hour and 40 to get up here, and I'm about to do 3 hours and 30. And my compa, mi hermano, turns to me and says, "Bro, just come over to my house." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, just come over. We'll hang out, this and that." I'm like, "All right, let's make it a compas day." So we had Korean barbecue. We watched some very good UFC fights. We're gonna get into UFC 261 in a little bit and some boxing in our last segment, una más. But before we go there, we have some very good guests coming up, Gilbert. I'm excited for this. But in the words of the New Day from WWE, who might have a better idea for this draft? It's Chargers running back Austin Ekeler, and we're talking to him next. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited for this next guest. Officially the first professional athlete on Compas on the Beat. That officially goes to Chargers running back Austin Ekeler. Austin, how are you feeling today?
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. Thanks for the intro. Appreciate the honor of being the first professional athlete on your guys' podcast. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, Austin, Fernando has that energy all the time, and you bring the energy just as much too, Austin. But I got to ask you about the off season. I keep checking, your Instagram, your stories. You do a lot of things, besides, squatting and bench pressing and lifting. I saw you went to Dubai. How was that like? I saw some desert pictures. How cool was that?
Yeah. So Dubai, it was very just interesting as far as like what they've done on the desert. It's incredible as far as the infrastructure and everything they built there. But it was definitely during a time where COVID's still present, so it was pretty empty, right? So just the atmosphere around there, it was different. Like I was asking the guy I was with there, he's been there for a year now. He's like, yeah, back before COVID, it was like shoulder to shoulder, which made more sense because I'm like, how could you support all these buildings with like this little of people here? But obviously they built a city on the desert, so a lot of tourism travels through there, and so it's kind of put a hinder on the tourism there. But it was kind of nice for us because we were just free range. We were able to go and pretty much experience everything out there. But yeah, we're riding some camels, got in a hot air balloon over the desert. We're hanging out in the rooftop pools and bars, and then went to the Burj Khalifa, which is the massive building. We're like 158 floors. So it was definitely an experience that was very unique. And I think that's what Dubai's trying to do out there, right? They're trying to create that experience that people want to come and see the city built on the desert, the mirage, as it's called.
Is it kind of just part of it, like, hey, you want to explore the world, learn new things, and kind of bring it over to your business aspect and stuff like that?
So for that was based off of basically like business. So I met a guy through the gym. Now he's the vice president of UFC and over in Dubai. And I just had a connection through him. He's like, hey man, you got to come out here. And so I wouldn't have even gone to Dubai if it weren't for him. So it was basically just a pure connection. Like I'd like to travel, but I think after traveling like that, I would always want to have somewhere I could like stay that's someone's a local, just because it's just that comfortability. They know, where to go. They can show you around. It was very nice and very convenient, but who knows? I'm just still young. So I got a lot of traveling I want to do in my day.
The gym brings people together.
That's right.
And brings business. Austin, you're doing a lot of things with your Twitch. You have a special NFL draft live stream event featuring 32 players, athletes, influencers representing each NFL team. You're hosting it with ESPN's Jordan Schultz. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Gridiron Gaming Group, kind of the backbone of what Gridiron Gaming Group is just a way for athletes to really bridge the gap through the community. One way we do that is through media. Well, why not make our own media is basically what I was saying. And so a lot of people are already on Twitch. And so we have reached out to athletes that are on Twitch. For instance, we have Connor Daly. He's a IndyCar driver. We have Tommy Canely. He's a pitcher for the Dodgers. Alicia Gray. She's a WWA player. And whereas basically I'm trying to help these people that are already in the streaming world or people that are coming into the streaming world really just perfect and take advantage of the opportunity that they have to connect with their community. And so we do that by doing these bigger events. We did one for the Super Bowl. Now we're doing one for the draft. So when you watch the draft, usually it's a like technical analysis of like the players picked and who they think's going to be picked. And so I was like, let's do like a less technical, let's do a little more social play off of the same kind of idea. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing on Gridiron Gaming Group on my Twitch during the first round. We're going to have, like you said, someone representing every single team. And they're going to come on and just basically talk about what's going on in their life, talk about who they think they should pick, talk about their foundation. It's basically a plug event. They can talk about anything they have going on, and then we'll talk about the pick as well at the end. But for instance, like we have like different players. Like, so we have some soccer players like Allie Long. We have Rachel Lindsay, who's a big Cowboys fan. She was a bachelorette. And so we just have a lot of different people in different spaces coming to represent this social event, which makes it a little bit of a different experience. And I'm excited to host it. It's going to be very official. Twitch is on board with it. So it's going to be something that I'm looking forward to trying to do every single year.
Are we doing suit and tie? Are we doing
No, it's casual. It's casual.
Okay.
Definitely going casual, right?
Which you mentioned a lot of, Bachelorette, WNBA players, Team USA soccer, women's soccer, Melvin Gordon, Derek Watt. Who's someone that you're excited to talk to, and maybe you haven't met them or anything? Who's somebody that excites you about the guest lineup that you have?
I think Raheem Mozart. All right. Mozart, I forgot how to say his last name, something like that, Mozart. But I was talking to him when we were, introducing the idea to him, and he reminds me a lot of myself, but he's a little older than me. But just as far as what he has going on, he's also a father, but he has a lot of involvement outside of football. And so I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to most, is just seeing what other people have going on. Tyreek Hill, I'm interested to see what he's going on. Maybe give me some pointers on how to, run as fast as he can. But just seeing what the guys are doing, really. Like, that's what I'm really excited about. Like, sure, like the draft's like the play that we're going off of, but I think the value of the content is going to be able to hear and see what these people have going on besides their big sport and, what they're doing off the field.
Austin, it kind of sounds like you're going to be like this draft expert, analysis kind of guy. Can we get a preview? Who are the Chargers taking at number 13?
See that, bro, I have no idea, man. I've watched zero college football. I've kept up with who we're trying to on the radar. None of that. Who we're bringing in for workouts. I don't even care. What I care about is give me a guy with a good head on his shoulders that's ready to work hard. He's not a hothead and thinks everything's about him. Is ready to come in and work and try to win games for us. That's what I want.
And Austin, you mentioned Raheem. I think he went undrafted and he went to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. So you guys kind of have a similar background with yourself being undrafted as well. But kind of take us back to your draft night, and how was that? Like, were you kind of expecting to get drafted, or you kind of already knew going in that you're going to be undrafted? You're going to have to work your way up and go through the harder path.
Right. I think coming out of college, I was like hoping to get drafted. I thought it was a long shot, and my agent let me know, it was like, hey, if NFL teams think they can not waste a draft pick on you, then they're going to try to get you in free agency. And it's like, I'm a Division II player from a small school. It's like, there might be a guy from a bigger school that people might snag because of the name on his school. Maybe not necessarily they think he's better than you, but they might think someone else is going to draft him. So they might take him with that like 7th round pick, which is where I thought I was going to go if I was going to get drafted. But now as I'm getting older, looking back, I'm like, I'm actually glad that I was not drafted, because I got to choose and I got to pick kind of my path. And I wanted to be on the Chargers or on Green Bay Packers. That's because that was it was probably the best, what I thought was going to be the best opportunity for me to make the team. And then the Chargers called about halfway through the 7th round and like, hey, if he doesn't get picked up in these last few picks, then we'll take him. And boom, then there I was like, yeah, let's do it, man. And from then on, I was like, I'm becoming a Charger. And then everyone was going crazy, That was my draft day.
Rocking the guitar, the guitar celebration.
That was before the guitar
Wow.
celebration. Yeah. Yeah. The guitar celebration came after my first touchdown. Like I scored my first touchdown and I was like screaming and just flexing as loud as I could and hard as I could. And I was just like, I got to have something. And then I just made like a staple. I was like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to stick with it. It's going to be me. So like when people are like, oh, you play for the Chargers? Like, oh yeah, I watch the Chargers. Like, who are you? I'm like, oh, the guitar guy. And they're like, oh, you're Ekeler? Yeah. I was like, yeah. So they have that connection, you know?
Austin, you know what makes me laugh about that is that people always ask you, whether it's media, fans, anything, what is that follow-up question that they ask you after your celebration? Do you play the guitar?
Yeah,
I've always found that as the funniest one. Does that kind of get to you, or are you kind of like whatever's about it?
Oh man, I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. Like even if I did play the guitar, like they might think that's cool or something like that. But I mean, it's not going to add any value. Maybe it will in certain circumstances, but I mean, for me, it's not. I don't play the guitar. I don't have any desire to try. I don't have enough time in the day to even try to learn the guitar. It's just not one of my passions.
Austin, since you're going into your 5th year, do you guys pay attention? Do you pay attention to the draft? Are you kind of eyes glued, or are you kind of like whatever's about it?
Yeah, I like to see the new teammates. You know, check them out a little bit. See who we got coming in, especially if we got a new running back. But all right, see the new competition. Let's see who the Chargers are trying to get in here to take my job. Let's go, because it is. I mean, it's a competitive business, right? Like even in my running back room, I'm like, you guys better be trying to compete for these reps, because I know I'm going to come in here. I'm going to show these Chargers why they have me on this team. And you guys better be doing the same thing. You're coming for my job, and I understand that. I want you to come for my job because I want that competitiveness in my room, right? So I invite that. I'm like, let's go, man. Like, because if we're all competing at that level, if we're all trying to be the best, then it just makes our room and it makes each other better, right? It's just that competitive, just grind. And it's like, ooh, like JJ's doing really good. Like I got to make sure I'm on my stuff. And if I'm doing well, they're like, dang, I gotta pick it up, you know. So it's contagious, and then it spreads outside the room too.
Look at that, Gilbert. Austin's bringing the energy here. I'm getting more and more excited for this.
I'm kind of worried about Joshua Kelly. What did you tell him a year ago? Did you give him that stern talk as well?
Bro, I give everyone that talk. Everyone that comes in, man. I'm just like, look, because that's how it was for me. For me, I was 6th string, man. Oh, I had to take some jobs now. Like that's how I had to make it. You know, it's no hard feelings. It's literally just straight business. Like I'm trying to do my best to show that I can have value to this team. And like, that's what it is. Until we make the 53-man roster and we're all on the same team, we're still competing then, but it's a little different. Now you're not coming from a job. Now you're just trying to play for your reps, for your opportunities, and try to make plays when you get called upon. But it's like, yeah, all the guys that come in, I'm telling Josh too, come in, bro. He has to, if you're trying to live in this life and stay in this world and show value and have a long career, then you have to continue to compete. You have to continue to show up. You continue to take people's jobs or establish why you're there, because it's our coach's job and our GM's jobs to find people that are better than you to replace you. It's your job as an individual to show why you shouldn't be replaced.
Austin, when you made the initial 53-man roster, you know there's times between that first week where you can get cut. Were you still nervous? Were you still going into until you finally made it to that week 1? I mean, I know obviously you were still nervous going in through the whole season and everything, but in that initial first week, were you a little bit nervous?
I don't think I was nervous. It's because I put so much pressure on myself, you know. There's definitely like the anticipation, like, hey, what is the decision going to make, right? That coaches are going to make the GM. But it's like, I put so much pressure and I did as much as I physically and mentally could do that I wasn't nervous. I was like, whatever happens, I'm okay with, because look, I gave everything I can. So if I don't make this team, I'll probably make somewhere else. If I don't make any of these teams, it's like, that's because my genetics and my physical makeup is not allowing me to play at this level. Because I literally did everything I could. I dropped out of school. I practiced and just went pro day and did all the mental stuff, studied as much as I could. I put everything aside, and football was my highest priority. And then that's how I got into the league, and that's how I established myself. And then I've continued to grow off of that.
No, and you earned that contract in last season when the Chargers, obviously you're a star player for them, and they rewarded you with a nice contract. But talk a little bit about last season, and this is the first time that you actually had to miss a lengthy time with the hamstring injury. Were you close to 100% when you came back, or can you take us a little bit back through the injury and how tough that was?
Yeah, man, before the injury, man, I feel like I was rolling, man. I had like 150 yards a game for the first like 3 games, bro. I was rolling. I was like, let's go, man. I'm finally getting the whole spotlight, passes, running, everything. The goal line situation is a different story. They took me out every time we got inside the 10. But just going into that, and then I got injured, right? And I come back, and it's like the injury that I had, I was out for 2 months, right? 8 weeks of not running and just hamstring recovery stuff. and a bunch of upper body and ab workouts. Right. So, but regardless, I'm not running for 8 weeks straight during the NFL season. And then I come back. I come back not because I'm back in shape, but because my hamstring can go full speed now. And at that time, my full speed had diminished and my conditioning had diminished so much. I was not 100. I was 100% at that time, but my 100% at the beginning of the season, when I came back from injury, was a lot different, right? Like my preparation coming into the beginning of the season had me at my peak of just physical, fitness. And then I came back and I was probably like 80% of what that was at the beginning of the season. And so I see myself, like when I watch my play, it's just, I look like a different guy. Like I remember a run against the Raiders where I broke out to the side and I'm trying to run as fast as I can. There's no one in front of me. And I just get hopped down from the corner or from the safety across the field. It's just like, I felt so slow, like just because I just lost so much strength from not being able to like squat, run, and do all the practices and then just maintain my lower body.
Hey, Austin, I think 2019, that was such a great year for you. I think you had a thousand. I think it was like almost actually 1,000 yards receiving, and then almost with 100 catches. I forget in Jacksonville, you came close to getting the 100 catches.
Right.
But it was such a big year for you in 2019 that the injuries last year kind of set you back a little bit. Do you feel like you have to prove yourself all over again and show that you're one of the best running backs in the NFL? That's something you kind of go into 2021?
That's just something that we all go through as athletes. Like whether or not we say we have to prove ourselves, like some people see it different. Like it's not even a prove. It's like almost like you come in and you have to play at the level that you can play at. And when you do that, then you're basically at the same time proving yourself, right? I hate to say like I have to come in and prove myself. Like that's what I have to do to the team's aspect but for me, individuals, like I have to come in and play at the level that I know I can play at. And that for, I guess, outsiders is proving, that I belong. And so for me, it's like, I'm really competing with myself. And then when I compete with myself, that is in turn showing, okay, my value to this team. Right. And so like, it's like when we go as a team, look at it as a team, like as a team, we can't worry about anyone. Look at like, the Chiefs, we got to beat the Chiefs. No, we have to play well ourselves. And if we play well, then we can beat the Chiefs. Not we're worried about beating the Chiefs. We're worried about ourselves playing well. And then it comes down to the individual level where I'm worried about myself playing well. And that will in turn make me a better player, make me a better teammate, and help this team win games. And so like, I like to look at it internally, right? Everything's internal. Like I'm not proving myself to anybody. I'm proving myself to myself, which hopefully will reflect in other people's minds as, oh yeah, he can still play at a high level.
Austin, we spoke to Tom Telesco today. I mean, but obviously before the draft and everything, he said that you guys, I have a little insight for you. You ready for this?
What you got?
He said you guys will not be drafting a quarterback in the first round. Are you okay with that?
Hey, here's the thing, man. We got a quarterback. We got a quarterback, but if we drafted one because we want some competition or they like some guy, so bring it on, man. Let's go. That's what this thing's about, bro. I don't care who we draft. Bring him in. Bring in all the best players you think you got, because that's great. That's great. We need that atmosphere, right? How are we going to get better? Well, it's competing with ourselves and putting ourselves in situations where your pressure's on. You got to go out and perform, because when you get out there on Sunday, that's what it is. It's pressure's on. Go perform. And we need to find the guys that can do that. So regardless, if we bring a quarterback, like Herbert's a great quarterback. Man, rookie of the year last year. It was probably the best rookie season any quarterback's ever had, right? And so he's got to do it again, though, right? So how's he going to do that? He's got to compete. He's got to go out there and compete. It's internally. It's with himself. He knows he can do it. Now he's showing himself. Now go out there and let's bump the bar up even more. Beat that guy that you were last year.
Gilbert, there's two guys with energy here, and there's one guy that seems like he's asleep. Need you to wake up, Gilbert. There's a lot of energy.
Come on, Gilbert. Let's go.
Come on.
All right. I'm gonna ask you a tough question, Austin. You got a new head coach and Brandon Staley. You got a new lineman as well, Corey Linsley. You got Ode Abushi. You got Matt Filer. You really revamped this offense, and the defense has Joey Bosa still, and Derwin James comes back. Are you guys going to go for it? Are you going to beat the Chiefs finally in the division? What's going to happen in 2021?
Hey, man, I can't tell you what's going to happen, bro. We got a lot of work we got to put in, man. Shoot, we got to learn each other's names first before we even think about getting on the field, right? Like, we just got a whole new face of the Chargers, right? And so we got to build the chemistry with the team. I'm not even worried about games right now. I don't even know any of our pass plays, right? We got a new offensive coordinator. And so it's like, we got to learn each other. We got to learn our identity, what our message is. And so we can put something on the field that's going to be, competitive, especially in our division with the Chiefs and the Raiders and the Broncos, right? Like, we got a tough division, mainly the Chiefs that have been rolling with Mahomes in the past few years. But we just got to make sure we can put something competitive on the field. And that starts with us. Like I said, it's all internal, man. I'm not even worried about other people. I'm worried about, do we know each other? Do we have a mission? Are we working together? And are we actually just building off of that mission that we're saying we're going to, or we're just saying it. And so that's what I think is for us. I think that's why we made changes, because we needed to switch the chemistry up, right? We were a good team. It's like, oh, same old Chargers. What does that mean? Well, the same old Chargers to me now that I've been here for a few years is like, oh, we come out hot, we're winning games. Now all of a sudden we lose in the fourth quarter. And then we go, 7-9 on the season, right? Like, oh, we lost so many close games. Like, same old Chargers. Like that's BS now, right? Like we have a whole new coaching staff, whole new vibe, whole new energy around the Chargers. Like we have a new stadium. So I need fans to be coming in and really just bringing the energy, because we have an opportunity to set the culture in the stadium that we've not had before, because we have never had any fans in SoFi Stadium. So if we come in, I'm talking fans here, if fans come in talking like, oh, let's just see what happens. Let's see if it's the same old Chargers. Then guess what? You're going to have the same culture that you've had in the past. But if you come in with high energy, expecting things like, hey, let me not just come in and see what happens. Let me come in, cheer as loud as I can, and try to help this team win. Then guess what? You're going to be a part of the culture that we're trying to make, because if you're doing that, you're going to give all of us players another reason to go out there and want to win games. And that's to get into the community, and that's to help you guys get into us and just create this winning culture around LA, right? Because regardless if we're winning or losing, it doesn't take any skill or take any talent to go out there and cheer loud and want your team to win. So if you're coming to the stadium, make sure you're freaking high energy. Make sure you're cheering for us. Let's go. Because look, we need that. We're in LA. Let's make this a great culture, and let's do it.
Man, love the passion.
I'm getting hyped right here. Austin, the things that we've heard about Brandon Staley is that he's a player's coach, likable guy, everything. Jalen Ramsey spoke incredibly about him. What are some of your first impressions of Brandon?
See, it's different. It's different because when I think of players coach, like Coach Lynn was a players coach for sure, but they have different just ways of what they mean by that. Like Coach Staley's big on relationships. Like he wants to get to know me, get to know me as a person, right? He gets to know everybody. He only has a limited amount of time, but it matters to him. So he takes some time out of that and just like shares words of wisdom with us, and wants to get to know. I love that, because if I'm going to respect what you're saying in your message, I'm going to respect it a lot more if I understand you and you understand me, like as far as like what's beyond football, right? Because this is life. Life's much bigger than football. Football is this big, and we're humans, right? So we all have some type of similar like connectivity between each other socially. It's not only football, right? When I get in the facility, it's just because it's a Charger facility doesn't mean I'm only a football player. I'm still a human. And I love how he takes that to the next level. He's just connecting with us. He called me literally when like a few days after he was hired, just to say what's up, see how it's going, talk to me about just his principles, talk to me about what I'm thinking, just about life. Now, we didn't even talk about football. And so that was really special for me to hear. And I just, that fires me up, man. Cause I'm like, this guy freaking cares about people. Like, that's what it's about, man. It's about people, right? And that, like, to work as a team, like, you don't have to have the best players, man. But if you have the great relationships and you care about each other, like, people work so much harder and so much better together. Right? You don't have to be the most talented team, right? Not the most talented team doesn't win every time, right? All you have to do is have Tom Brady on your team and then you win every time. No, just play it. But no, just for me. And then it creates a deeper passion that we have for the game and just we have for each other. Like the chemistry is just so big, it becomes like, there's only one team that wins the Super Bowl every year, right? So like odds are we're not going to win, but that to me, that doesn't even matter. To me, what matters is, hey, am I producing? Am I having a good time with this team? Are we being productive? And are we winning football games, or at least trying to work towards something that we're saying we're trying to work towards? And so it's that progression, and it's that building in the community. It's just the atmosphere that I want to see develop. And Brandon Staley, I think, is going to be a great coach to have, especially out here in LA, because he's all about it.
Brandon, my bad. Austin, just real quick, you've done a lot with your foundation. Can you just talk about some of the stuff that you have coming up with them? I know you've said community a lot of times right now that we've talked to you on the podcast. You're all about that. Can you just talk a little bit more about your foundation and what you guys have planned?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just when I talk to my community, like the four things I always talk about is mental health, physical health, social life, and motivations. And so if I talk about those, I also want to provide things that help you develop skills in these areas. And so that's what the Austin Ekeler Foundation is trying to do, is trying to help provide resources in just areas that are maybe lacking resources, so that people can just experience more. Because the more you experience, the more you learn about yourself, the more you know if you like something or don't like something, and then you can change your path, or at least learn about yourself, right? Which is really important. And so that's what the Austin Ekeler Foundation is trying to do. So far, I've built a gym that's actually being built right now for a school in Santa Barbara, where they have like 2,200 students. very nice area, but as far as like the equipment, the funding is very low because everything has to be donated there. And so they have like 12 sports at the school, and they have like 1.5 gyms. And so they were just deprived. They don't have enough gyms. Like they don't have enough gym time. So people can't work out all the time. And so I was like, no, we gotta get that fixed. And so boom, put a gym in there. It's just like, for me, the gym was such a pivotal part of my just growing up, just because that's where I learned hard work. That's where I learned mental discipline. It became part of my lifestyle, which helped me be a better athlete. And then I just learned things that are transferable skills into the future. And so that's what I'm trying to help, just provide opportunities for people to go and take advantage. And that's why I like to provide an entire resource, because it's not saying, oh, go do this and learn these skills. It's like, go use this, and maybe it'll affect your life in some type of way. Maybe it won't, but that's for you at least to have the option to go do that.
Austin, honestly, we appreciate the time. Gilbert, you got anything else for our energy man here?
No, I just love what you're doing in the community, Austin. You're doing big things, and as you know, us being beat reporters covering the Chargers, we really appreciate how outgoing you are and how you kind of embrace the media. So we really thank you for that.
Heck yeah. I'll say one thing on this, like media, like you guys are a tool if we use you as a tool, right? And you guys use us as like your product, right? We use us for a story. We use you to get our story out. So like, that's why I respect media. Like people that don't like media is probably because they got something controversial to say, or they, had a bad experience with media. And so I appreciate you guys for always treating me well, and it's reciprocated.
We appreciate it, Austin. Ladies and gentlemen, he rocks the guitar when he's at SoFi Stadium in the end zone. He does one-arm pull-ups on social media, and he's trying to make the community a better place. Chargers running back, Austin Ekeler. Austin, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Folks, I'm excited for our next two guests. I'm introducing Eric Williams, Rams beat reporter for Sports Illustrated, and Kevin Modesti, Rams beat reporter for the Southern California News Group. Kevin is Gilbert's coworker with the OC Register, and obviously Eric is mine. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Fernando. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the draft on Thursday, and seeing where these players go. And again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, same here. Maybe it's a slower process for me to gather excitement for the draft. One of us on this call is old enough to remember the days before the draft was televised, before it was, it was so successfully hyped by the NFL. I looked up a story I wrote more than 20 years ago with a quote from somebody saying that the NFL draft is the most popular non-event in sports. And this wasn't some football hating cynic saying it. It was George Young, the great NFL front office man of many generations. So I don't know that there's anybody in the NFL who would utter that sentence now.
Yeah, no. And it's definitely, like you guys are saying, it's hyped. It gets exciting. Eric, fans know you. Charger fans know you. They used to cover the Chargers for many years. Tell us a little bit about what it's like covering the team in Thousand Oaks and the crosstown rival and the LA Rams, and kind of what your transition's been like.
Yeah, it's been fun, and it's been unique and different, being able to cover both teams in the Los Angeles market. Obviously, the two teams do things a little bit differently, both when it comes to football and non-football operations. And it's been interesting to kind of to see those differences and approaches. I think both approaches can be successful. I think we've seen that both approaches can be successful because both the Rams and Chargers have had success in terms of wins in the market. But I also think because of the ultra competitive nature of the market, it's the city of champions. You have the Dodgers and all the success they've had, obviously, winning a title, and then the Lakers winning a title as well. And so both the Rams and Chargers are trying to carve out a niche in the market and figure out new unique ways of doing that. And I think we've seen that over the past year, obviously lately with the Rams and their draft house, trying to get some attention, in this market. So I think you just have to be innovative and think outside the box. And I think both organizations have done that.
Erica, we miss you with the Chargers, but you're doing big things with the Rams, and you kind of, joining now with Kevin Modesti. So you guys are kind of doing big things over there. And I kind of like this SCNG kind of, cross promotion here. So thank you for being on. And Kevin, I'll go to you now. I think you're okay with dating yourself a little bit. You're kind of giving some back in the day stories. So I'll just kind of say, You've done it all, Kevin. You used to cover MLB baseball. I think you might be a Hall of Fame voter for MLB as well. But then you went to the news side, spent a couple of years, covering city stuff, maybe even politics. And then you're back with the NFLB covering the Rams. How was kind of that long path for you in being an NFL beat writer?
One of those versatile guys from UCLA. I'm the Demetric Felton of the local. Well, it's been fascinating to get back to sports, which is something I wanted after about 10 years of being away, covering politics in various ways. Nothing against covering politics; it's fascinating, but I felt like sports writing was kind of in my blood, and I wanted to do it again before either I or the newspaper and before one, so the Rams was the beat that was available at the time, and I jumped on it. It's been great. I'm unashamedly somebody who goes back to following the Rams as a fan about 50 years. So it took me a long time, I guess, to kind of get inside it and see how it works. But there's nothing quite like the NFL. Love it or hate the way it works. It's an endlessly fascinating operation.
Before we jump and talk about Rams, we have to ask both of you, and Kevin, I'll start with you. The Chargers' new head coach is Brandon Staley. You guys covered him with the Rams. He was defensive coordinator. What should Charger fans expect, and what are they getting from Brandon Staley as their new head coach?
Well, when it became evident that the Rams were exceeding expectations last season, I wrote a story proposing 6 reasons for it, and number 1 was Brandon Staley and the way he built that defense, obviously around Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but using the versatility of other guys, getting the most out of Leonard Floyd and the secondary. I can't say I wasn't surprised that he moved up to a head coaching job quite this fast, but I certainly wasn't surprised if he interviewed really well, whatever teams he talked with, because I was always impressed with his communication skills, especially his ability to find a Lakers analogy for any situation to explain a player's role or value.
Eric?
Yeah, just to co-sign on what Kevin is saying, he certainly has a commanding presence. You guys have covered Gus Bradley, defensive coordinator for the Chargers, now for the Raiders. I compare him to Gus in terms of his ability to just be charismatic, always upbeat, positive. And I think that carries some weight in a locker room when you can kind of be like that on a daily basis and get your guys going. The second word to me that is innovation. I don't think that Staley was worried about what players can't do. He's more concerned about what they can do. And like Kevin said, kind of putting those players in the right position so they can perform to their best. And I certainly think that you're going to see that with the Chargers. Don't get too caught up in the scheme in terms of what he did with the Rams, because they had 2 unique players in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Certainly he's going to build around Derwin and Joey and what they do best. But I don't think it's about scheme with him. I think it's just about personnel, innovation, finding out what guys do best, and then giving the franchise energy and enthusiasm moving forward.
Fernando, I got a confession to make, because you give me credit for the Brandon Staley hire, because I was saying you got to hire this guy, Brandon Staley, but it was Kevin who kind of pointed me to the Brandon Staley's direction, telling me about, his resume, track record, everything Eric just said as well. And I started thinking, okay, Brandon Staley might be the guy for the Chargers. And I kind of took the credit. I wrote a story about it. Fernando thinks I was the one, ahead of the curve, but it wasn't. It was Kevin. But Kevin, we like to do a lot of combo stories. We like to kind of, pick our brains and what are the Rams doing? What are the Chargers doing? We did a combo story on cornerback prospects in the NFL draft, because the Rams need a cornerback. The Chargers need a cornerback as well. The Rams are not picking into the second round. I think pick number 57, Kevin. But do you think cornerback is not the best, but the biggest need for the Rams? Is cornerback a big hole for them? Because they lost a lot in free agency. You think that's the biggest need? And who are some names out there if it is kind of their top need for the Rams?
Well, it's one of the top needs. I mean, the Rams lost free agents at virtually every position group, which is no mean trick. And they're hard to forecast draft wise. As you said, no first round pick from what was the last one, 2016.
Jared Goff.
Won't have another one, and Jared Goff, and even that wasn't their own first rounder. They won't have another one until 24, I think. They do a lot of their best work in the late rounds. They most often make trades during the draft, and the way they're approaching scouting now gives them a lot of confidence in their knowledge of late round prospects, so with that said, making the point that they're hard to forecast. Yeah, I think a cornerback to replace the depth and the talent that they lost when Troy Hill left as a free agent. That's one of the big needs. And if you said who's the best you could maybe dream of getting, I wrote down Asante Samuel to answer my own question. Second generation pro from Florida State, but there's of course a lot of corners out there. So we'll probably get to it. I would think center would be another position, inside and outside linebacker potentially. I think they could find a wide receiver of a type that will help them, and a wide receiver or a running back who doubles or even singles as a punt and kick returner would be especially useful. But I could see them doing something at almost every position, limited by the fact that they only have 6 picks at this point.
Eric, doubling down on what Kevin said, you wrote an article today on SI Rams about the center position. Do you feel like that's one of the most important spots that they need to single? I mean, we saw it with the Chargers when Mike Pouncey went down. The Chargers had a huge need for that. Do you feel like it's kind of the same thing with the Rams? They need a good center moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Kevin said. I do think they have needs at a lot of different positions, which is interesting because, a lot of people believe that this roster has enough talent to win a Super Bowl, and yet they have all these needs to fill going into the draft. But for me, yeah, it starts at center. When you lose a guy like Austin Blythe, that was kind of their anchor of that offensive line, and they let him go for the amount of money that he made. I mean, 1 year, $990,000 guaranteed. So that tells me that they were ready to move on from Austin Blythe, and they either felt they had an answer on the roster in Brandon Allen or other guys potentially, or they liked the draft enough to go ahead and say, hey, we can get our center of the future in this year's draft, which has a deep pool of talent at the center position. Obviously, Drew Dahlman makes a lot of sense because they have Kevin Carberry as their offensive line coach, who coached at Stanford. Coach Drew Dahlman knows him well. Drew Dahlman has been playing in the zone scheme since high school. And his dad, Chris Dahlman, was an offensive line coach for the Atlanta Falcons and actually coached under a guy named Gibbs, who is the guy that's considered the godfather of the zone running game. So he has a long lineage of playing in that scheme. And oh, by the way, the Rams run the zone running scheme. So he could seem like he could come in and hit the ground running as a guy that they could draft in the second or third round. And as you mentioned, I think that center is perhaps the second or third most important spot on the offense. Obviously, it starts with quarterback, but basically your center is the quarterback of the offensive line, and you have a new quarterback coming in, learning a new scheme. You're going to start a new center as well. So having those guys on the same page, making sure that they're able to communicate effectively is going to be important.
Gilbert, you heard that. They said quarterback. Take it to him. Take it to him. You
I know
ask him.
we haven't asked about the quarterback position just yet, and I know Eric, wants to move on from Jared Goff. So I won't ask you about Jared Goff anymore, Eric. Let's go to the future, Kevin and Eric. How about Matthew Stafford? We haven't brought up his name yet, and Eric, you mentioned Super Bowl contender. So I ask you both: is Matthew Stafford the answer to the problems? Are they going back to the Super Bowl? A couple of years ago, they had that bad offensive outing against the Patriots in Atlanta. It didn't work out for Jared Goff. Todd Gurley went downhill from there. But now they threw all their chips back on the table with Matthew Stafford. So Kevin or Eric, both of you guys answer this question. Are they Super Bowl contenders with Matthew Stafford?
Well,
I'll let Kevin go first.
I don't think that move alone gets them over the hump and into SoFi Stadium for the Super Bowl. Some other things have to happen. It's just a curious thing that you go from a quarterback who did help you to a Super Bowl, who earned a couple of Pro Bowl spots, and of course, who you guaranteed $110 million to a couple of years ago, and you acquire as your savior a guy who hasn't won a playoff game. A Rams executive the other day was talking about how decorated he is, presumably meaning he's won lots of honors and awards. He's a one-time Pro Bowler, right? Now, no doubt he will have more weapons with the LA Rams than he did with the Detroit Lions and a better chance to win. But it's a test of the Rams' ability to perceive that, right? That's what a draft is about, and that's what acquisitions are about, is assessing talent and projecting what it can do in a different circumstance, your circumstance. So we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're not only everything that you mentioned, Kevin, but this guy's 33 years old. The guy that you got rid of is 27. So he's actually 6 years older than the guy that was limiting your offense. You can't deny the arm talent of Matthew Stafford. I mean, he throws the ball over the place. He's a little bit better mover physically than Jared was. But there's an immense amount of pressure on Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, who is really the person that dictated this thing getting done, to win. And not just win, but win a Super Bowl. That's why they made the move. Is he believed that Jared had a limit in terms of his ceiling, in terms of where he could lead this team and what they could do on offense, and that Stafford's ceiling was higher, and that he would be more effective in this offense. And so we'll see. I agree with Kevin. I mean, we've mentioned all the needs that they have in this roster. It's not just Matthew Stafford. They need more playmakers on offense. They have to acknowledge that. They need somebody that can stretch the field. I mean, this team finished in the bottom third and plays of 20 more yards, plays of 40 more yards, and average play per game. That wasn't just Jared. That was a lot of other stuff as well, including the play call, who has to perform better on game days. So it's a lot of things that need to add up for this team to be where they want to be, which is hosting the Super Bowl at SoFi in 2022. And I'm interested to see what it looks like, starting when training camp starts in July or August.
Before we let you guys go, we've learned a lot today. I have to ask you guys something, and Gilbert, I'm bringing something out of left field because I love going at Eric a little bit. I love having fun with him, but
a little bit.
Exactly.
I'm off the hook.
No, you're gonna answer this too. No one's off the hook. Tuesday, you guys are doing something very fun. You guys are going on a special field trip to Malibu to go check out where the Rams are going to draft. That's all the flash and everything. That's a flash that you guys get to go to. Number one, how excited are you for it? And two, Eric, this is for you. Did you even know who Rebel Wilson was before today when they released that?
I have watched movies in the 21st century, so yeah, I knew who Rebel Wilson. I'm excited for Tuesday. I'm bringing my Speedos and my goggles. I'm going to get some laps in,
coconut oil,
hang out at the infinity pool.
Coconut oil.
I'm pretty excited.
Kevin?
I'm excited to see the draft house. We're both guilty of leaving off the sponsor's name intentionally.
Well, we come from a certain generation, Kevin, where we don't necessarily add that, right?
That's right. I'm more excited to actually have a chance to talk with Les Snead and Sean McVay for the first time in at least a month. I think you Chargers writers have talked with your coach at least twice since the last time we got anything direct. So we know they're busy, but it'll be good after this long period of writing about the NFL draft through our knowledge and perspective and context to actually be able to hear what they say about their intentions and to try to parse, try to interpret what they might have in mind starting on Thursday.
So
on Friday in their case. Sorry,
Kevin. So is Sean McVay doing this press conference by poolside, shirtless, and drinks? What's going on here?
We've seen that, and I hope not. But but if there's a sponsor for it, I'm sure
you guys are going to have a lot of fun. I can't wait to see the draft party frat house stories that you guys are going to release on Wednesday, because that's exciting. It's going to be. Make sure everybody follow both Kevin and Eric's work. It's great work. They're two veterans in this league who I've learned a lot from Eric, and I know Gilbert's learned a lot from Kevin. So we're truly grateful for both of you for helping us out through our journeys. And everybody, go follow both of them on social media. Go follow both of their stories. Kevin, what Twitter handle?
Oh, it's at Kevin Modesti. Last name is Modesti.
And then Eric?
At Eric_D_Williams. Sorry, I have to make it hard, but there's a lot of Eric Williams out there. So Eric_D_Williams.
There's only one in our heart, though. It's Eric D. Williams. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. And everybody, stay tuned. We have a little bit more before we go. Welcome back, everybody, to our favorite segment called Una Más, presented by Garrison Brothers Whiskey. Gilbert, you drink some bourbon? You like that whiskey?
I love myself whiskey, Fernando, and now that I think about it, I wish I had some whiskey when you came to my house to watch some UFC fights.
Well, honestly, Garrison is one of the Garrison Brothers Whiskey is some of the best stuff you'll ever have. It's obviously from Texas, but it has that little kick to it. So to me, there's no place that you can go other than Garrison Brothers Whiskey. Man, I love, and like I said, like I don't drink alcohol, but the way this bottle looks and everything, I'm going to have to get my brother Daniel some, because I know he likes him some little whiskey, and then I'm going to have to get you a bottle. So there you go. That's 2 to add on that list. Garrison Brothers Whiskey is some top-notch stuff, and I'm going to need to get some for you guys.
I can't wait to drink it. For me, I like it on the rocks. People like it kind of neat, but for me, just give me an ice cube and some whiskey. I'm cool for the whole night. Can't wait for that gift.
Speaking of rocks, man, this weekend, UFC 261. Like I mentioned previously, my compa over here invited me to watch it at his place. Man, that was some crazy stuff. Let's talk first about Chris Weidman, I mean, his injury. That was I think the first fight that you and I got to watch, because we're peeking at the Dodgers Padres game a little bit, just to throw some fun out there. By the way, Gilbert, 3-1 Padres. They won this weekend series. But yeah, no, it's Fernando Tatis Jr. 6 home runs? But yeah, no, it was very interesting to watch these fights, and I got to watch it with you, because I mean, I love UFC. I love the aggression. I love everything like that. But I've never got to watch it with an expert. So I was very excited to watch it with you. Talk about Chris Weidman's leg injury, man. I mean, it was crazy.
Thank you for the expert shout out and whatever you mentioned in the podcast. But this is the combat sports section, okay, Fernando? But yes, the Chris Weidman injury was nasty, gruesome. And the first thing I thought, you were like screaming in the background, like, oh my God, what just happened? And to me, I just went straight to Anderson Silva, because that happened like the other way around. Anderson Silva, broke his leg, kicking Chris Weidman. I forget what year, but a very long time ago. And to kind of come back around on a Weidman was insane. And the crazy part, as soon as he landed that kick, you could tell it was, broken, bent, whatever. It was just not in the right place. It was a little funky. and then like he kind of stepped back and it folded again. And just watching these replays and reviews, I was like, then after I stopped thinking about Anderson Silva, I just kept looking at the replays like, what did I just see? This is like one of the worst injuries I've seen in combat sports. So after Weidman, had that injury with the kick, I started thinking like, fighters, avoid the kicks, no more leg kicks. Avoid the shins, man. Just do something else, because that was nasty.
Man, it was and you said it. I shouted. I was like, "Yo, what? Like, what is going on?" So you could hear me in Gilbert's Instagram post at gmonzano24. Shout out. I'm at Real F Ramirez on Instagram and on Twitter. So when he could hear me shout in the background, I'm like, "Oh my god!" I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was just one of those things where you're like, "Oh, dude, this sucks." Like, I just felt bad for him, and obviously, who he was fighting, who was he fighting again?
Hall. I forgot the first name on
Hall. Yeah.
Elijah Hall. Sorry,
Elijah Hall. So he gets over and he just bends over and he starts praying. Like, I could tell he was praying for him and everything.
Felt really bad.
Yeah, no. And I think Dana White tweeted this out or put it on Instagram. That's the first victory where competitor didn't have to land, the winner didn't have to land a single shot. And obviously you don't want to go out like that or win like that. It's just terrible. But man, it was something else.
Yeah, and I started thinking immediately, like, Uriah Hall didn't land a single punch. How do you win the fight? So I think that's going to be a rule that you go back with the UFC and to kind of figure out, because maybe it could be just no decision, no contest, and try again another day, because I don't think it's fair that Weidman got a loss when he threw a strike. But Fernando, let me tell you about a leg kick that actually did land and did some damage for the actual person who threw it. Doug Rose Namajunas, the head leg kick, that was insane to a Wei Li, like where she landed that kick to the head and she dropped, she folded, and Wei Li thought that it was kind of an early, to call the fight that early so soon. I thought maybe she was still there, but she was a little wobbly. She wasn't in the right place. So I think the victory to Rose, I think, was the right call.
No, you're 100%. I mean, Rose got on top of her and starts hitting her, and that was the thing. She was making contact to her face. And Rose really wasn't, or not Rose, but Wei Ling really wasn't like moving or doing anything. She wasn't even blocking. So, I mean, you kind of had to stop the fight. But man, I saw her and she was angry after. She was like, "Why'd you guys stop the fight?" And I mean, it's one of those things where the referee has to look out for the fighter, for the future of the fighter. So the referee did look out for them. But man, that kick was crazy. And then the way she folded, man. You know what? Thug Rose's reaction after, really, I was like, wow, like, she was crying. She was excited to get back to the top and everything. And she was counted out. I mean, I thought a lot of people didn't think she was going to win this fight. And I was like, wow, like, this, like, for her to win and be on top, it was just awesome to see. And I was very happy for her, because she is one of the best right now in UFC.
Yeah, because a lot of people counter her out, but then I'm thinking Rose beat Joanna twice, and Wei Li beat Joanna too. But Wei Li needed like 5, gruesome rounds to beat Joanna. You didn't remember that fight where she had the big chupete and the forehead, and it was sticking out like a zombie. But credit to Rose, she's a real deal. But I know there was some controversy, with the stoppage, but there was no controversy in the main event. Usman against Jorge Masvidal. What a strike. What a knockout, Fernando.
You know what? I thought that one might go the distance, because I remember, like, when we were talking pre-fight before it, we had talked to, and obviously you saw it. Last time, Masvidal only had 6 days to drop the weight. Man, I saw that video of him. I saw him, and he just looked like he was out of it, just complete. He reminded me of Canelo versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It looked like Chavez Jr. had done so much to drop all that weight. It looked the same as Masvidal. Masvidal was able to go the distance with Usman, and here he just wasn't able to. It was a pretty good fight at the beginning. I mean, they were just going back and forth, back and forth. I remember Usman gets Masvidal on the ground, and I'm like, oh, is this going to happen? And Masvidal's able to get up and everything. Trash talks him a little bit, and then he gets hit. But it was just a good knockout. They said something on the broadcast after, and I'm really questioning, can anybody really beat Usman? And I'm like, after what I've been seeing from him, I don't think there's any. And there was a certain individual who tweeted out something, Conor McGregor. If I'm Conor, I stay away from Usman 100%. This dude is vicious. This dude is hungry. And I just don't think, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I just think Usman right now is 100% the king of his division.
Yeah, Conor McGregor right now is not on Usman's level. Maybe 3 years ago he was, but we just saw him lose to Dustin Poirier. That's what we're doing the trilogy, because he got embarrassed, got knocked out, and we've seen McGregor lose against Khabib. We've seen him lose against Nate Diaz. Usman doesn't lose. I know he has one loss on his record, but he has a lengthy, long losing streak. He's on the top of his game. So, hey, that fight would do well because it's Conor McGregor, and Usman needs to get paid because, he's been dominating people. So I would still love to see the fight, but I would throw all my money on Usman.
I would not like to see this fight. It reminds me a lot of Rocky Rocky Balboa versus Clubber Lang. There's no way like the first one. I don't know if Conor can ever get back to like Rocky at one point, thanks to Apollo Creed, gets back to being Rocky Balboa, the hungry fighter. After all the money Conor's made, I don't know if he can get back to that level. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I like Conor. I like the bravado which he approaches it. I love the walk. I'm all for that. I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr. threw that out last night. I'm just saying, or on Sunday night threw out the little walk, but
we get it.
But I'm just giving you stuff. I mean, it's just friendly banter back and forth. But I love the little Vince McMahon walk. I love Conor. I love everything that he does. But I just don't. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to get back to that hungry fighter. But don't go looking for trouble with Usman. I mean, that guy is he's too vicious. He's honestly the best for a reason.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Conor and trying to come back and get to the top of the game and how much money he's made, because I want to shift over to boxing. I love boxing maybe a little more than UFC. I grew up as a big boxing fan, and there's a big fight this Saturday with Andy Ruiz. His comeback fight. Andy Ruiz has not fought since he lost to Anthony Joshua in the rematch in Dubai about 2 years ago, and he's coming back to fight Chris Arreola, a veteran in the game, a heavyweight who's kind of seen it all. So to see how Andy Ruiz, who's looking very skinny, and I spoke to Andy Ruiz for a story on the Orange County Register. Look out for that later this week. He told me he weighs 255 pounds. For the Anthony Joshua fight, he was over like 320 pounds. So Andy Ruiz looks in shape. He looks trim, skinny, and he's hungry to be a heavyweight champion again, because he had that big upset against Anthony Joshua again a couple of years ago, and he kind of just shot up to fame like Conor McGregor. So it was a very cool story, but Andy Ruiz kind of fell down. Now he's trying to pick himself back up.
It's funny. When I was with NBC San Diego, we ended up covering Andy Ruiz. After he won the fight, we started covering him. We covered about 4 or 5 of his events. And I remember he did a workout in downtown San Diego at a boxing gym or whatever. And I saw him walk in, and I'm like, okay, like I know what a big person looks like. I am a big person, so I know what it kind of looks like. Andy's people were telling us that he had lost weight. There were reports out there that Andy had lost weight. Man, I was looking at him and I'm like, I don't think he's lost. I actually think he's gone up a little bit. Our photojournalist, Dave Smith, and Dave Smith has been around for years. He has covered so many things. I want to get him on one day because, Gilbert, I tell you, like Dave retired at NBC. Man, he's seen a lot of stuff. He was there during the Atlanta Olympics, what happened in '96 and everything. So I'd love to have him on one day, but Dave Smith tells me, dude, this doesn't look like a guy who's lost weight. And I look down at myself and I'm like, I lie to people all the time telling them I'm losing weight and I haven't. So, I mean, I know exactly what's going on here.
Hey, but you can see it now, Fernando.
No. Now
there's no
you
question
can see
right
it.
now.
No, 100%. No, you can see it. But back then I just didn't. And then he ends up going and putting on his gear. And I was like, dude, there's no way this guy has lost weight. So whatever. So then he comes out and Anthony Joshua kind of took the Floyd Mayweather approach in a sense, hit here, back up here. I mean, hey, more power to him. He just couldn't keep up with him. And honestly, Andy went from nobody knowing who he was almost to a household name. So he had a lot of stuff to do. So he was distracted and everything, but it seems like he's gotten his confidence back, Gilbert. And I mean, you spoke to him. I think he's gotten his confidence back. He looks like he's dropped, like you said, he's dropped a lot of weight. He looks like he's back. He's energized and he's focused. And he joined a very good team, in my opinion, with Eddie Reynoso and Team Canelo.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the trainer Eddie Reynoso, who is known for training Canelo Alvarez. But Eddie doesn't just train Canelo now; he's training a lot of champions. Oscar Valdez, he's training now Ryan Garcia, and now he has Andy Ruiz. So I think that's what Andy needed. I won't give away too much of my interview with Andy because I want you to read the story. But he was in a dark place, and he needed the help of Eddie Reynoso and Canelo. And I spoke to Eddie Reynoso as well. I got the Spanish going there for my interview, a little rusty there, but it worked out. Eddie knew what I was talking about, and I didn't sound too crazy.
I can recommend somebody to help you with those Spanish lessons. Dante Lascano. I mean, that's who that's
finally shout out. Oh, actually,
shout out right there.
Time for Dante.
Second time for Dante, maybe a third time even, but shout out to Dante. But yeah, continue. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, yeah, I got to brush up on the Spanish, so that's why, again, if you're listening, being bilingual always pays off, and it's an extra skill. But Eddie's so nice. Like he's always telling me like, "Sí, síguele, se órdenes, lo que quieras, question." And I was like, okay. So Eddie was telling me that, he's like, people know what I do. I with Canelo, it's about cardio and countering and thinking one step ahead, defensive mind. So I think with Andy Ruiz, who's known for speed and power, but not the defense and the counter. So I think you're going to see that more in this game and kind of picking the spots where to choose and not wasting punches. But I am a little worried for Andy Ruiz dropping so much weight because he might lose some power in those punches. But against older guy in Chris Arreola, he might be fine there. But I think for Andy Ruiz, he needs to be dominant in this fight. He needs to knock out to show people he's back, and then he'll be back in the title picture. And I want to see him fight Deontay Wilder because Wilder needs to fight as well.
That's very true, Gilbert. So Andy wins this weekend. Let's just say, let's throw out the hypotheticals out there. Andy wins. So you think he would go to Wilder? You don't think if whatever happens between the Gypsy King and Anthony Joshua, he couldn't step into that right away, right? That he would have to wait a little bit and continue to fight guys?
Yeah, because I don't know it's for sure yet, but they keep saying it's a done deal, it's a contract, but it's a 2-fight deal with between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. So they're gonna be locked in together for about a year. And I think they're waiting for the pandemic to kind of be over. We're kind of getting that way now, and they want more fans at a stadium, and who knows where, in Dubai or London or even in the United States. So they're kind of tied together for the next year. So if Ruiz beats Arreola, which we're expecting him to do, what do you do now? You don't wait another 2 years. And Deontay Wilder too. I know he's trying to sue Tyson Fury for not fighting him for his rematch, which is by contract or trilogy fight. And so why not make some money together? They're under the same umbrella with Al Heyman. Get Wilder, a big puncher who needs a fight too. And Ruiz, I think it would do well even on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view for this fight, Chris Arreola, I have my doubts about that. I don't know who's going to pay for that. But you put Ruiz and Wilder, I'll throw money at that.
What's funny is that back when he was at NBC and everything, Wilder was a champion at that time. When I was at NBC, Wilder was a champion, and Andy was. They wanted to unify the belts, and I remember because I think Andy had 3.
Yeah, he had 3. Yeah,
and
correct.
Deontay had 2.
He had 1. The WBC
one. Okay, yeah. So they wanted to. So they had been talking about unifying it. He's like, "Oh, Deontay and I are good friends. But we know once we step into that ring, everything would change." Man, that would be a very good fight. And I remember Andy got a special twinkle in his eye when we mentioned that fight. So I think it'd be a very good fight, to be honest. I think I'd love to see just 2 guys slugging at it and seeing who's next for Tyson Fury or for Anthony Joshua. But that's another conversation, because I was about to say, hey, I don't know anybody that's beating Tyson Fury, but hey, anything can happen. But that's the fun part about boxing. You just never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and Fernando, I'm just happy we're talking about boxing. I feel like they're getting left out. They're getting forgotten. I know UFC has the bigger fights, but boxing in May, Cinco de Mayo week, hey, you got to love it. A tradition that's one of my favorites.
Gilbert, speaking of that, I'm excited for next week's guest. We're not going to give you guys any ideas or anything, but just know we're excited about next week's guest just because we're continuing to follow up talking what Gilbert loves to talk. He loves that boxing, loves combat sports. So we're going to do a little bit. Yeah, exactly. We're going to do a little bit more of that next week. But for right now, everybody enjoy the draft. Thank you guys for hanging out with your compas. Gilbert, vámonos.
¿Nos vamos? Pues vámonos.